Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 170 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. From the Mails from Louisiana, it's me, Appa. From Gadgetzan, New York, it's RidiculousHat.
Hello.
And from Karazhan, California, it's Botticus.
Hi.
So, how are y'all doing today? Y'all doing good?
Yeah, doing all right. It's first week back back in the long weeks. It was nice having days off, like lots of days off. But now we're back in full 5-day weeks. And it's not as good.
Yeah. So, well, I guess we'll just do the patron thing and then get to life, because I got Appa story time. A little bit of Appa story time. So before we get into the show, we want to remind you that Concede is supported in large part by you, the listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/coinconcede. And big thanks to Electric Mick this week for bumping up his pledge. So thanks a lot, dude. All right, so I guess I'll just start with how life and ladder is. So for those of you who don't know, I posted about this on Twitter a little while ago, but I got in a car accident in August, and I developed a cyst in my knee because of that. And then I had some issues with like joint space narrowing my hip that progressed into early onset arthritis. So, uh, why I'm telling you this is to tell you why I was at the DMV yesterday. And I recently got some paperwork signed to bring to the DMV to get a handicap tag for my rearview mirror. And so I brought that to the DMV yesterday. I got there at 8 in the morning when they opened. I was number 33 in line, so naturally it took 3 whole hours to get seen. I think number 5 was at the counter for 45 minutes. And yeah, it was not good. I played a lot of Eternal, Hearthstone, and KOTOR on my phone in that 3 hours, and
Ugh.
fell asleep, I think, twice. Um, but I finally got my number called at 11, I think almost exactly 11 AM. So I was there for 3 hours, and I get up to the window, and I like being organized whenever I go somewhere, so I had my little folder with my money in it, my registration, my paperwork, my ID, everything they needed, my social security card, and I brought it up there. I'm like, here's my stuff, here's my name, here's my social security number, here's the money. Can I have a handicap tag, please? And the guy like gets through all the paperwork, enters me in the system, and then he gets up to go grab it, and then he turns back around and he's like, "You know what? We're out of them." I'm like, "Excuse me? What did you just say to me?" He said, "We're actually out of the handicap tags. We ran out yesterday." And I'm like, "Please don't. Am I unpunked? Am I unpunked right now?" Um, so I ask him, I say, "Is there any way, like, since you have my address in the system now, can I just give you the money and you mail it to me?" And he's like, "No, we can't do that from here. You're gonna have to come back." So he asked me for my name and my number, and I gave it to him, and he wrote it down on a sticky note. I know, very official, and put that on his desk. And he said, "We'll call you back later this week so you can come pick it up." They're not going to call me back. I'm not that naive. So I'm gonna I'm gonna have to go back up there later this week. So I basically burned just 3 hours of my time in the worst place on earth yesterday, and have nothing to show for it. And I
Uh,
posted this in Discord, and Hat said the DMV is like if the feeling you get when you're an odd warrior and your opponent Rexxars on 6 could be a place. That's what the DMV is. And he's
It's true.
absolutely not wrong.
It's true. It's just that feeling of, I know I'm going to walk out of here feeling disappointed, and yet I'm still going to stay. And it's just that existence.
About an hour in, I thought it would be higher EV to just give up and like come back the next day at 6 in the morning so I could be number 1 in line. But then I decided to push through for the next 2 hours, and that turned out to be a mistake. So yeah, that was
is
my day at the DMV yesterday. I was at the point where I was like so mad and frustrated about it that I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just laughing because it was so absurd.
does your DMV have appointments? Like, do they do appointments at at yours or no?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
My
Yeah, because
experience with the DMV is limited.
that was something that they do at least at my local DMV is the appointment thing, and I rarely use it, but always regret not using it because anytime you actually have to do that, I am so happy that they finally have the digital registration booths now at the DMV. Those things are the best because you just go in and you scan your thing and they print out your thing and you leave. And it's great.
Yeah, there's like an online way to renew like a handicap tag, but you can't get one issued through online. It's so frustrating because I have to go back. It's the worst.
Yeah, they've
But
digitized some of
yeah.
the renewal administrative stuff because if they already have your money, then they don't need to see you again. But for some reason, the first time that you get anything done, I will never forget my DMV experience. And yes, Coin Concede listeners, we are doing the DMV hour to open the show because we want you to share in our misery. I had to transfer a car from Massachusetts to New York, so we go to the DMV, and they actually have a person at the front that looks over all of your forms before you stand in line to make sure you have everything, to make sure that you are doing the right thing in the right way. And he looked over all of my stuff and said, "Okay, you're going to get this form and wait in this line." And then an hour and a half later, I get to the front of that line, and it's the same guy. He's covering a break, and he said, "Oh, you're missing this transfer receipt from the dealer."
bruh.
Oh
Bruh,
no!
you
Oh
you looked me in the
no!
eye and you looked at my forms and said you do this now, and then I did it, and now you're here waiting for me. Were you the end boss the whole time? Were you secretly the
Oh
end boss?
no!
Is this like those games where you make a friend in the first 10 minutes and then after you played for 40 hours, that was the bad guy the whole time? So, said I have to get an original receipt from multiple states away. So, we just left, called the dealer, they faxed over, went to a different DMV. And we went in there, we're like, we just came from this one. They were like, oh, those guys are jerks over there. And then I was done in 10 minutes. The moral of the story is, I got Rexxar on 6-2. I know what it feels like.
Yeah. So that was my how's life going for the week. Other than that, school started today, and two of my classes are professors I had last semester that really like me, and they're good teachers. So I'm excited about that. Excited to finally get the paper. It says I went and did school. But ladder wise, I'm playing a lot of Wild right now, as I'm sure you've heard the past 2 weeks on the show. I've said I've been playing Wild. Um, I actually recently recrafted Raza, and I'm playing combo Raza Priest and Wild, and man, that deck is fun and really hard. And I was playing that on stream last night. Probably play it on stream tomorrow too. I'm just playing it all the time. It's a lot of fun. And in standard, I haven't been playing a lot of standard, but I played a practice set against Dragon Rider last night for her Badass Woman of Hearthstone tournament versus Slyssa, and she wanted to practice the Priest Mirror. So we played Mind Blast Priest against each other, and that deck's fun. So I might play some of that in standard. So
Mm.
I'm a Priest gamer now, apparently.
Yeah, I saw what's
Welcome to Priest
really
Concede.
I saw what's really good in the priest mirror is 4 mind blast. That's,
Yeah, Botticus was
that
watching
was
last
pretty
night.
good. I really wanted her to heal the 21. Oh, I wanted so bad for her to just heal the 21 and just here for
Just
quads.
lay the
Just
hand
lay
on the
down the
table
quads.
at all these. My favorite game from
Uh,
that set was whenever I was just like super far behind, just ripped Alex Straws off the top. Not close. Yeah, so that was fun because I streamed that set, so she could go back and watch it. And so yeah, that's on my stream as well. But yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Priest. Apparently, I am a Priest main now. But yeah,
What
Wild's
happened
fun.
to us? What happened to us?
Well, I got tired of playing the Arena Lock mirrors and decided to spawn a Shadows people.
Yes.
And yeah,
That card
probably
is
smart.
that card is very good against decks that play recklessly with their own life total. Cuz they're afraid of the dark, if you know what I mean.
so how's life/ladder going for you, Hat?
I too am playing a significant volume of Priest, and I'm going to coin concede later in this episode to Samurai Flea. because we were talking about this in the Discord about after we did our Xerath Cloning Gallery episode last week about we had talked a bit about the Vivid Nightmare version, and he was the one that brought it up. And I'm prepared at this point after about a week of playing it to say that it's a refinement and not a new archetype. It's just a better version of the deck. You don't get the Grizzly turns and you don't get the Lyra turns. You just actually kill people way more often, way faster, and do way more damage. Because you have Power Word Shield for more cycle. You have Mass Dispel for more cycle and also Dispelling Things, which is super good in this meta. And you just never whiff. You take all the whiffs out of your deck, so your Spellstones are always kill you right now. And a lot of the time, there were so many games where I just played either a Velen or a Malygos, and either they killed it or they couldn't, and I just and then I just Spellstone and kill them, or just play Velen on 6, and then Vivid Nightmare on 7, and then Mind Blast Holy Smite, and you take 28.
And this is the 4-minion version?
Yes.
Right?
So the only 4 minions are Radiant Elemental, Ziliax, Velen, and Malygos. It does play Shadow Essence.
I was watching Risen stream yesterday, and he was picking up Cloning Gallery Priest, and he had just like taken the basic list off HS Replay, and it was the one with like Grizzlies and all that kind of stuff. And Wicked Good was in chat, and he was like, every scenario where Risen would res something bad, Wicked Good was like, "This is why you should play the 4-minion version." Risen was like, "What's the drawback of that?" And Wicked Good basically said that you can't beat him down sometimes, and Risen was like, "That doesn't seem like much of a drawback because you're like always trying to OTK them."
Yeah, the drawback is you can't beat a Skulkengeist as easily, but you usually just Mind Blast for 40 anyway. So
You also don't get the sweet Lyra turns, but I think that's okay.
yeah, it's
No, it's not okay. Not okay.
I mean, so
I'm not in. Yeah, I'm just not in for this deck. I'm sorry. I want my Lich Kings to give me Death Coils every time because those deal 20.
I want my 8/8 to give me extra Mind Blast.
It's
I mean,
the other version is more fun and more variant, but I think more variant when you're trying to combo kill your opponent is not a win, is not a good thing. So I really enjoy the original version, I guess.
Let me interject here real quick. I just realized that we've gone from arguing about keeping prep or not to whether or not to play Lich King.
Oh god. What happened to us? What happened? How did we get here? It's and I'm arguing to take the Gadgets and Auctioneer equivalent out of your deck. That's what's happening here. Is the next Keep Prep going to be Keep Vivid? Is that what we're doing?
I'm disappointed in all of us.
What happened to us?
But the good news is, well, I was thinking about this in this format as well. We'll talk about it a little bit. Of all places, I was listening to The Angry Chicken, and it inspired me to ask you all this question about this standard format. Can you play aggro in the standard format? And is it good? I think you can pretty consistently say yes, right, with Odd Rogue and then the mid-range Hunter. Yeah. And I would say even Paladin is an aggro deck.
Well, Odd Paladin.
I think it's worse than it's ever been, and you can still play it and still do well with it.
What about mid-range?
Yeah, there's mid-range decks out there.
What about control?
Yeah.
What about combo?
Definitely. Of course.
And
We're talking about Vivid Nightmare Priest.
Yes, I'm aware. So, yeah. And you can play multiple versions of all of those archetypes and in multiple classes. And multiple classes all have multiple decks. This meta is very diverse. Now, we said the same thing about the Witchwood meta because it's still that meta, and I think that might be the issue. But just looking at the variety of decks and different choices that people can take, and card choices in Vivid Nightmare Priest, or Shadow Essence Priest, whatever you want to call it, Spellstone Priest. There's a lot of play and flex to the options and choices in the standard format, and it's very, very diverse. And I do think there's something to be said for variety and the nature of how the games play out. But in terms of decks and options and strategies available in the standard format, there's a lot going on. And a player can basically do whatever they want. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I have talked about formats like this before, and they don't play to my strengths of having one deck that's really good and one deck that's really good against it, and I usually play one of those two decks into the ground and do pretty well with them. But when a format's super wide open, I'm not as experienced in it, so um, I don't generally enjoy it as much. But I do agree that this is a pretty wide open format. There's a lot of options to play, and a lot of people should be having fun with it. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's basically just the Witchwood meta with a couple different card choices, and some of the cards got nerfed and et cetera, et cetera. But it might be getting a bit stale.
Yeah, like when the Witchwood came out, I had a lot of fun playing for a really long time. I just played a bunch of standard. And then when Boomsday came out, much less so. Um, and then, I mean, now that Rumble came out, it's stale again. But I feel like if this format got sprung on us without ever playing Witchwood and Boomsday, it would be fantastic. I think everybody would love it. But I think it's just a matter of everything being the same with like a couple new things sprinkled in. But
Well,
yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do in this format, and I think it's cool.
there's a statistic from the tournament format that, or the tournament section that I'll talk about. Talk about now. Actually, I think it's pretty relevant. That I think another major reason why there may be some burnout, there may be some issue with this meta, is that if you look at the Masters Cup, where there were 15 super high level players that were competing for cash money, 52% of all decks brought either had Gen or Baku. So I think looking at those cards in retrospect and how they shape the sameness of a game playing out, that's really going to be kind of a root of what's going on, because so many decks are driven by the idea of I take out half of the casting costs in my deck and I hit the button each one of those turns. And it just sculpts a gameplay format that I think is a little bit too predictable, even when there's a lot of different options, a lot of different decks. You're just waiting for that thing to pop at the beginning of the game, and you know that the deck you're playing is going to hit that button really, really often.
Did
Yeah,
the other
there's
25% have Deathstalker Rexxar in them?
So we'll get to the tournament meta. There were a lot of hunters to the surprise of nobody. Though there was one hunter deck that did not have it because it had Baku. So, you can't play both, but I think that doesn't help the point. And as far as decks that had 0 Baku again and 0 Death Knights, we're talking like single digits. Kind of insane.
yeah, I feel like the issue with Baku is like not like a sheer power level thing. I mean, like the power level is very strong in them. That's part of the issue, but it's not like super in your face like some other cards like Rexxar. But it's just like you've been saying, like the consistency that they provide and like shaping games to feel the same no matter like what cards you fit in your curve. Uh, kind of has been pretty bad for since the Witchwood basically, and I feel like it's probably something they'll want to address in the future, but I don't know how they do that because they're such like big parts of what the Witchwood was, you know? Like they were the two kind of flagship legendaries from the set. So I feel like it's likely that they'll want to address them in some way, but I don't know how they do that with like keeping them like iconic and not playable, but like I don't know. It seems like a weird issue for them to have to tackle.
Well, it turns out that the way they're going to solve it is make us play wild. So that seems to be the solution right now. And yeah, I don't know what another year of Genin Baku is going to look like. Um, it's an interesting question, and I don't know if that's the core of the problem, but it does contribute a lot. And we've talked about this a bit in the show before. Just the games play out the same way, and so when you know your opponent is going to make 2/11s on turn 2 and 2/11s on turn 4, it's hard to get excited, even if you can plan out the matchup and play it a different way. So, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that the standard meta is actually super duper diverse, but yet the feelings that people, and not everybody dislikes the format. Just in terms of community engagement with Hearthstone, I think that it's pretty objectively down from this time last year or even earlier this year. and trying to figure out why that is kind of a study in and of itself. But Botticus says, I don't care about this odd or even meta. I'm going to play. Well, what are you playing, Botticus?
So, I got back to rank 5. I fell to rank 6 after the reset, and I think I had a quest for a bunch of Warlock stuff, so I just played Cube Warlock and drew really well for the games I played because there were a lot of Doom Guards every game. Lots and lots of Doom Guards every game that hit my opponent in the face. Got back to rank 5, and one of my kind of New Year's resolution-y type things that I wanted to try this year is try to potentially hit legend with a deck that I kind of created on my own, because I usually don't do that. I usually just take a deck and kind of tweak it a bit uh and just, whatever top tier deck is and tweak it a bit. So I kind of had been playing uh this I put Ellie Shaman, but it's actually Elemental Mage. I kind of put together this Elemental Mage deck that I had been thinking of, or I played it quite a bit in casual with kind of mixed results, and I just wanted to put it to the test on ladder, and it actually has been performing quite well. I think I'm something like 7-2 with it, like not insane stats or not a huge swath of games played with it, but it's doing pretty well.
If you can ship
It's
me that list, I can help you with the number of games because that sounds awesome.
So it's got 4 spells in the deck, 2 Book of Specters and 2 Elemental Invocations, and then the rest are all lots of creatures. Lots of elementals, but also um what Archmage Argal. And I played a
Oh
game
boy.
against a priest the other day where I went turn 1, coin Aragol, turn 2, draw 8 cards. And it
That's
was nice. Oh, no, sorry. Elemental Invocation Pyros, draw 6 cards after I drew um 2 Voodoo Dolls for at the start of the turn. So I drew 2 Voodoo Dolls, Elemental Invocation Pyros, Book of Specters, draw 6.
so. I mentioned this week that we need to go back and do a Got It or Goofed It episode, and Botticus remembers the Book of Specters prediction he made many moons ago, trying to make sure he can get that in the Got It list. I see how it is.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I don't think it's necessarily a great deck, but I've been having good success with it. I basically am trying to make Leyline Manipulator work, so I have as many things that generate extra cards as I can, like Stonehill Defenders and Pyros and uh Aragol Book of Specters is really good refill, kind of churns through your deck, gets you to Jaina faster. Um, just lots of cool stuff like that, and it's been fun playing it. I'm gonna keep playing it until it stops working. Um, and yeah, it's cool. But if you're seeing a lot of combo decks, it's not great against those because you're not very fast usually. I had been meaning to do this because I had Jan'alai in the deck for a long time, and just because I wanted Jan'alai in the deck, but don't put it in this deck because it does not come online till about turn 15. Usually, is about the time that Jan'alai starts shooting fireballs, and that's just too late. So I finally just replaced it with a Blaze Caller, and Blaze Caller has been performing quite well in a deck like
You were
this.
playing Elemental Mage
Um,
without Blaze Caller?
yeah, I was pushing the Leyline Manipulator pretty far, so I was playing Servant of Kalamos, and the 5-drop, the 5-drop 5/5 that draws a card,
Bonfire Elemental.
Bonfire, and of course Arcanosaur. Arcanosaur has been busted. That card is
Yeah.
that card is so good.
You play Jaina, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, Arcanosaur
Yeah,
Jaina. The first time that happened to me, I was like,
yep.
oh, that's how that works.
And Baron of course. And then
Can you ship me this? This sounds
okay.
so sick.
Yeah, and I also play Syndrago. I play a bunch of one toughness minions to be able to trigger Jaina later in the game because you don't always have a lot of control over your opponent's minions if there's a board clear. So being able to consistently generate water elementals with Glacial Shard and the 2 mana elemental that gives you a random spell, which also works with Leyline Manipulator. There's a lot going on with this deck,
I can
and it's
tell.
been a ton of fun. But yeah, so the kind of just been messing around with standard Elemental Mage, and yeah, I'll just post a list in deck list library so everybody can give it a try and let me know if they have any suggestions on what to change.
All right. So I guess we should probably do a podcast. But Hat has written in the show notes, let's chat about how cool Wild is here and how Blizz is focusing on it. So I'm not sure how much you wanted to go in depth into Wild, Hat, but I mean the format's awesome. It's a lot of fun. I've been playing it for like the past 2 weeks, pretty much. Like not completely exclusively. I still play some standard, but Wild's been my main format for the past 2 weeks, and it's quite a bit of fun. I think we'll probably dedicate a little bit more of a section to this next episode, at least, so I can kind of go more in depth into the format in general. But yeah, it's nice to see Blizzard focusing on it. We were having a discussion in the Discord earlier where we were we were likening um Blizzard's focus on Wild as like a person's New Year's resolution to go to the gym. Like at the beginning of every year, they're like, "I'll focus on Wild this year," and then they do it for January, and then they stop.
Yeah, I think I've just been seeing some crossover from pros that historically, focused on standard because Wild is the ladder that matters this month, and a lot of discussion about it on social media platforms, and a lot of people dipping their toe into it and playing Wild. And we also have the Wild bundle that we'll talk about in the news section, but it just hit stores, the U.S. store yesterday, and then the EU and Asia stores 2 days ago. It's there's a Wild Brawl this week. So there's a lot of focus on it right now, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know if this is a true pivoting for Blizzard, but it might be where they realize, hey, we need 2 game modes. And right now, well, 2 constructed game modes. Sorry, Arena. Sorry, still love you, Arena. 2 constructed game modes, and they actually want to make Wild relevant. Now, it is a format with, I'm not even going to call it a higher cost to entry, and I'm going to say specific entry because when you buy standard cards, you can play them in Wild. But when you buy Wild cards, you can't play them in standard. And if you want to get those adventure cards, it's either a ton of dust or you're spending real money to get a real adventure. And it's a harder value proposition, so I like that it's being pushed a little bit more because I think when Team One Trick did their video a little while ago, they said the biggest issue with Wild was about the way that Blizzard marketed the format, that there were just too few people playing it. And Blizzard's doing their best effort to get people involved. So I just noticed that, and I knew you were playing a lot of it, and I wanted to bring that up in the show, saying that we are hearing that in the Twitter sphere, and next week I do expect us to talk a little bit more about Wild. Also, unrelated, I won't be on the episode next week, but we're going to try and get someone with more Wild experience on so we can talk about it.
All right, so want to get into the news?
So we just had a small patch come out with a few changes that are pretty neat. there were some arena changes, and it looks like they're lowering the average quality of the buckets for the following classes: Hunter, Rogue, and Warrior. I'm assuming this is because they're performing a little better than the other classes, and then the rest of the classes have had their average raised a bit. So, kind of cool to see that they're doing more frequent arena updates. Just trying to make sure that that format remains interesting for those of you who like to play it. I saw some people in Discord talking about it, and they're happy that these changes are happening. And uh, yeah, I'm just really glad that they're paying attention to Arena a little bit, and hopefully that continues and they don't just kind of let it sit. And then the other big notes from the patch is that they're making some changes to Rumble Run. It looks like the synergistic cards based on your deck and your shrine are going to start to appear more often. They kind of tweak the numbers on how often you're going to see synergistic buckets, which is cool. And then some of the power levels of the bosses have been adjusted. I think a lot of the more challenging, the very, very difficult bosses, I think their decks have been tweaked a little bit, so they're not going to be quite so broken to play against. And then also, a little change is that if you lose with a shrine, you are going to be guaranteed that the next time that you start up a rumble run, you can choose the same shrine, as well as whichever shrine you lost to, you will be able to choose that shrine as well. Which is pretty interesting. Essentially, their reasoning is that um, they want people to be able to really delve into a specific shrine um, and kind of get that one done if they're doing kind of a completionist type thing where they want to do the rumble run and complete it with all of the shrines. So they want a little less randomness so that you can really focus in on that. And then also Dave Kosak made a tweet saying that um an undocumented change that they had is that one of the shrines always offered will be ones that you have not beaten a run with, which I find interesting because you're offered three shrines, which means that every time you're going to be offered the shrine you just lost with to the shrine you just lost to, and the and a shrine that you haven't beaten it with before. So it's just kind of interesting to me that if you wanted to ever replay through a shrine, that it'd be pretty hard to do it. I guess the way they had initially done Rumble Run is you would choose a class and then you would pick the shrine from the class, but they didn't necessarily um, want that to be the case. They didn't want people to only doing it in a class that they know and love. They wanted people to kind of be able to have to branch out a bit. And there's a bunch of more information on his Twitter, but I find that kind of interesting. I don't know how much I love that last specific change, but everything else seems good. They're definitely small changes, but all I think relevant to a certain portion of the population, and I think overall a good thing. Do either of you have anything you want to add to the patch? Any thoughts you have about Rumble Run or the arena changes? Maybe Appa, do you have any notes?
The arena one, I don't play like all that much arena. Like I'll play a run or two a week, or maybe a run every week. But the arena writer for Tempest Storm YouTube channel, like we're in meetings every Monday, and I'll hear him talk about arena. And basically, for the past like two expansions, he's been saying Warrior is busted. And he wrote a video about how Warrior's busted. Then apparently the played rates of arena, Warrior and arena like went up a lot, and then you started seeing like more problems with Super Collider being offered a lot. The 4 mana 3/3 that gives a 2/2 weapon, that one was really good. There's just a bunch of really good weapons that Warrior had access to in arena, and then Hunter has a bunch of Hunter tools, and Rogue has their hero power. So those were like the top three classes for like the last expansion or two. So it's cool to see them kind of tinkering around with arena and reducing the power levels a bit. I actually have an arena run right now that I forgot about, and I looked at the deck, and it's just straight up busted. I just have a bunch of weapons and like proactive minions, and I I'd expect to get like at least 8 wins out of it just because I have like a super collider and a couple other weapons, and that's like how good the weapons are in arena. So it's nice that they're lowering the average quality of the cards for that.
Anything else you want to add, Hat?
I think the Rumble Run stuff is fascinating. That they had talked in the past of not wanting rewards behind the long form adventure content because people feel compelled to grind them out. So they tried to make them only cosmetic, and then the Lich King came out, and Hearthstone players' challenges and cosmetic rewards go together like peanut butter and jelly, and so people were grinding out the Lich King, and then Blizzard said, "Okay, we'll try again." And they did Dungeon Run, and they only put a card back behind 8 successful runs. People rounded out. And so they got to the point where the Rumble Run, they're like, okay, well, people are going to get these rewards anyways. Let's just give them to them right away. And so as soon as you logged in on Rosticon's Rumble, you just got 3 packs. Didn't have to do anything. And then after you beat your first run, you got your card back. It's interesting that actually was worse. It's interesting that players didn't feel like they had earned it and that it wasn't worth it, and that kind of diminished the replayability of the mode. I think it's a really fascinating study on human psychology, but it makes sense to me that they're making the rewards harder to get, that being given something isn't what people open this game to look for. They don't want to be given something, they want to earn it. I'm
Yeah,
about it.
it's kind of funny. It felt like we were just given a little boost on how many packs we got when the set opened, and we were not rewarded for doing Rumble Run. So it felt like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like they wanted to reward us for doing the content that they worked hard on by not giving us packs instead of it didn't feel like we got the packs up front, which is what essentially they did. It just felt like we kind of got some more here, and then there was nothing for doing the other content, which didn't feel. I definitely feel like it didn't feel as good.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think for any WoW players out there, the same argument comes up for Titan Forging, that being given something versus earning it seems psychologically like it would be better to not have to work as hard for a better thing, but it actually, people like earning things, especially in game form content. And so I'm curious to see what the right balance is here. I think we know that the Arthas portrait was a little bit too far. But maybe Dungeon Run was the one that got it right. I think Monster Hunt might have been a little bit too easy. And I think that Dungeon Run probably had the
Monster
right
Hunt
balance.
was a bit of a grind, right?
Monster Hunt only had the
Monster Hunt,
4. You had the 4 heroes. Dungeon Run was the one with the you
yeah,
had to get all 9.
but with Monster Hunt was the one where they gave you the quest where you had to do it 8 times with the tracker and then 8 times with the
Yeah, you had to win
other person. You just
something
had
like
this
that.
quest that a lot of people were kind of complaining about, having this quest that they didn't really want to have to complete, and it was a slog to get all 4 of them done. I remember it took a lot of time, and for people who are not super interested in single player content, I kind of understood that. So I think there's a balance for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and Matt is saying in the chat, Matt at Arms is saying it wasn't 8, it was 10, which is the problem.
Oh,
Because
that's right,
because
because
8 won a run, and so if you won a run, you literally had to go back and play more, which
yeah,
you
yeah.
didn't want to have to go back and play 2 more silly games unless you're, at the DMV waiting for a sign they didn't have. Um,
Uh,
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, cool little patch. Not super impactful for us necessarily, but hopefully it just improves the overall Hearthstone. Also, to note that there is a wild bundle available now in the store. It's going to be available through January 22nd. It is 24.99, and it includes packs from Boomsday, Whispers of the Old Gods, the grand tournament, and I'm
Goblins
doing
versus Gnomes.
goblins versus gnomes. I was doing it based on the pack. Like I'm looking at the 4 packs instead of what the actual names of the packs are. So I was trying to determine what the names of the sets were. I didn't play during most of these. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't play during all these sets, but there you go.
I started playing like after Goblins versus Gnomes was like over, so I didn't open like a ton of packs from there. But the pack animation opening for the GVG packs is really cool. I enjoyed opening those. It was neat.
I like the pack animations for Whispers of the Old Gods, the little eyeball squirming about. Yeah, I like that one. But anyway, if you have a lot of these old cards, this is a great deal for money in terms of dust. But if you're just looking for legendaries and you haven't opened those packs ever before, I'm sure the first 10 packs you'll get a legendary is also pretty good. So if you have any interest in wild at all, then this seems like a cool little bundle to pick up. And if you're anything like me, Appa remembers when I opened the holiday bundle, he was streaming and just saw a lot of golden legendaries get
Gold
opened.
legendary, legendary, gold legendary, gold legendary, legendary. Yeah, Botticus. He rolled well on that one.
I high rolled pretty hard off of that pack.
Well, and
And
remember for the wild bundle, there's a pity timer for the first 10 packs you open of any set to make sure you get a legendary. If you have never opened these packs before, this should be 4 legendaries. So if you have never opened GVG or
except
TGT pack,
Doomsday.
well, you don't buy
Right.
that in the wild bundle, buddy.
Wait. Oh. So then I missed one. Oh, it's literally right underneath all the text. Oh my god. All right.
Reading is hard,
So
Botticus. We know
I
this. We
think it's
forgive
Mean
you.
Streets.
Mean Streets of Gadgets 10. My
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, the wild bundle does not sell a standard legal set, but you tried.
It looks kind of like a Boomsday pack. That's what I was saying. I was going off the picture. I'm sorry. Just let's
I'm sorry. Don't be mad at me.
yeah. If you want to play Wild, get this bundle.
Yes. That is a correct recommendation. That is a good thing. Because if you've never opened these packs before, each set that you haven't opened, you should be guaranteed a legendary out of each one. So should be 4 legendaries if you have never done any of these, which is pretty good. And just in terms of dollar per pack, it is a good deal.
All right. So the next little news highlight we have here is from the Chinese Twitter account Celestial Sin. We usually end up bringing this Twitter account up whenever there's some sort of controversy or uh, interesting thing going on in the Hearthstone community. Sometimes it's rumors that are not necessarily substantiated, but had a couple interesting tweets here. Uh, Such as the account says, I just learned that China's winter playoffs is being played at home, off stream until top 4. Guess how many players qualify for the winter championship? And in case you can't guess, it's 4. So they're not going to stream until the top 4 that have already qualified for the winter championship have qualified. And as Hat and I were talking about before the cast, this definitely doesn't have any way to have any shenanigans happening uh, in this, which that's a lie. It just feels really weird to uh, have this be the way it says it's going to be. And the other news item that they tweeted out was that the top 2 players on the wild ladder from January are going to directly get invited to the wild open finals. So instead of the top 100 getting put into a tournament to qualify, it's just going to be number 1 and number 2 are going straight to the wild open finals. So Hat, what I don't even know where to start.
I know where you don't start. Cut to top 2, qualify, ship it. That's not where you start. That's
Print, send it out.
like, so in every other region, you grind top 100, which is, it's not the most pleasant experience in the world, but then, you hit, say, 40, 50, and it's the last day, and you can probably log off, maybe check in later in the day. As opposed to exactly 2 people will qualify, and we're only using ladder results, and there's no chance of co-oping or collusion. None.
Or win trading.
And I really,
Good thing we
really...
don't know anybody from China that does any win trading.
I hate that we have to say that, because there have been a disproportionate number of integrity concerns from this region. And I feel terrible saying that this is a problem endemic to this region. I would not be surprised if there were concerns with ladder integrity in multiple other parts of the world that we don't know about. But China has had a very visible competitive integrity problem for months now. And unfortunately, the way that these 2 announcements kind of dovetail together indicate that it's not going to be resolved, and in fact probably worsened, by major qualifying tournaments being played off-stream and remotely. And ladder being used as a decider when Blizzard has made it very clear they're moving away from ladder. So I don't know if Nettie's just on a different page than mainland Blizzard here, but this feels like a step backwards.
Like, kind of putting aside just the collusion and stuff like that could pop up, just think about the mental health strain that this is going to put on the players that are actively trying to qualify. That's just got to be awful. Imagine being like rank 2 legend with like 10 minutes left and getting bumped down to like rank 3, having to play and then losing. Because I'm sure that's going to happen to somebody. This is just, it's so bad. It's
Just
awful.
the extreme version of end of the year ladder grind. It's not just I need this top 25, it's I need this number 1 or number 2, and that's all that matters. That's just whew, no
I
thanks.
feel for whoever's going to try and qualify through legitimate means.
I mean, even if you have a team of people co-oping to do this, that's still just a ton of grinding, because knowing this now, players are incentivized to grind the entire month as hard as they can to get the highest possible MMR. It's just... Blizzard has basically made a statement that ladder is not a viable or healthy way to qualify players for tournament. But I guess the send-off for ladder as a qualifying thing is just make only 2 spots on it matter, and the rest not matter. I don't love it. So I hope they figure it out. But unrelated to that, this next news item.
Yeah. So Che, how do you pronounce his last name? I don't want
Hey, Chow.
Che Chow. Announced that they were leaving Blizzard on the 4th of January. Yeah, the face of esports for Hearthstone is also leaving Blizzard. Looks like he's going to be working for Ubisoft as the senior esports director. So still staying in esports, but yeah, there's a lot of I don't know. There's just there's a lot of people leaving Blizzard right now. The Blizzard does not have a great look as of the last few months. So it's really sad to see him go. I know a lot of people really enjoyed all the work that he did for Hearthstone esports, and we definitely wish him all the luck at Ubisoft. But yeah, it's kind of another sad day to see him go. Have either of you had the opportunity to meet Che before?
I haven't met him. I think his time at Blizzard was actually relatively short. It was under 2 years. Um, He got a lot of really positive engagement on Twitter from former Blizzard employees after he left. It seems like he was a popular person, and at first there were rumors that, did he get fired because of how Hearthstone esports in 2018 didn't really work out the way that we envisioned, and kind of everything that happened was scrapped. But the day that he announced he was leaving, he got this new job where he added senior in front of his title and took over all of a different company's esports. Seems like it was more of a promotion and opportunity that he took more than anything else. That just happens to be conveniently timed. The Blizzard look stuff, and there's some very real concern to be had there. But also, there's something to be said for a market correction in digital gaming and esports that we see with a lot of companies. And especially in this genre, there's very real competition right now. And Artifact tried to make a dent and really is struggling right now just because it's a very competitive field, but it doesn't mean that Valve sucks. It just means Artifact really struggled. Gwent rebranded itself and relaunched and all that and is struggling to get a foothold, but doesn't mean CDPR sucks, just means didn't work out. And Blizzard has a few things going on right now that are kind of under the gun, but it's really just a question of what is the global economy going to look like in this year? What is gaming in general going to look like this year? All told, it seems like there's a little bit of a bubble in our industry that needs to be deflated or is going to be deflated, and I don't know if that is a direct reflection on Blizzard or if there's stuff going on on a larger scale. Now, with that being said, there are some very real concerns at Blizzard, and there's just a lot of brain drain going on right now that we can see. But I'm just not ready to say that the environment within the company is the reason that all this stuff is happening. I can't quite get to that conclusion. I can say it is particular timing, but also I can say if another company said, "Hey, we want you and we'll give you more money," it would probably work on me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we even know what card game competitive card gaming looks like for a lot of different people in 2019. We still don't have full details on what Hearthstone's going to look like, and I actually listened to a couple Magic the Gathering podcasts this week slash last week, and as far as I know, they also don't know what their competitive season is necessarily going to look like. They don't have all of the information. People are going to Magic the Gathering Grand Prix not knowing what they're competing for. They don't know how much is going to be involved in the digital client, their new digital client. They don't know how much is going to be involved in competing in GPs, kind of similar to uh, Hearthstone. So I I almost wonder if they're both waiting for each other to announce what they're going to do to figure out how they're going to one up the other one. It's
Yeah, if kind of I'm kind of seeing a pattern in like not the big like main flagship esports. Like for those, I'd probably say like League, like Fortnite, CS:GO, those kind of things are like the really big ones. Like you could call those like the football level like
Overwatch.
esports, like Overwatch, like the ones that really draw a crowd and like bring in money. And then you have like different like satellite esports. You got like Rocket League, you got like Hearthstone, you got the card game ones like Hearthstone and Magic, you got like sports ones, you got fighting games, and it feels like those are to the big esports as like soccer, hockey, like uh tennis, like those kind of different satellite sports are to like football. Like they don't bring the same like audience and like uh level of income or exposure. So it feels like a lot of these like not lower level esports but like less popular ones are kind of surveying like the landscape and figuring out like how much they want to spend and like how much energy and manpower and stuff they want to put into this uh based on like what return they're going to get. Hearthstone's a golf of esports. Yeah, that makes sense. But using that as like a sports analogy, that's kind of how I feel like the esports scene is starting to shake out. It seems like other games have like dumped a bunch of money into it expecting a return like games like League and CS:GO and those kind of games got whenever the esports boom like really hit initially. But it seems like things are starting to settle. So I think different games, Hearthstone included, are looking at how to approach their space in the esports market.
Yeah, and we actually kind of see that in this next post that was a post on Reddit, which is that there are some random surveys going out that have 30 to 40 questions. There's a lot of questions in there, but one of the questions, which is kind of a scary thought, is will you continue Hearthstone even if there is no league? So essentially, are you looking to continue playing Hearthstone even if there's no competitive side to the game, if there's no HCT or Blizzard sanctioned events, if it's just kind of community grown events. And I don't know, that's a as somebody who doesn't really watch a lot of tournaments. I don't often watch a lot of tournaments, and this year doesn't look like I'm going to be uh doing too much on the competitive side. That's still a really scary question to me because I feel like high end competitive parts of the game are still important to me, even if I'm not really a part of it. And I don't really know why that is. But for a long time, all of the games that I've played have had at least a competitive element to them. And taking away the highest level of competition definitely feels like it diminishes it in my mind a bit. But I don't know if either of you feel the same way. Appa, I know you're highly competitive, and
Yeah,
so
so
this.
I haven't gotten the survey or anything, but I've seen some of the questions that it asks on there, and there's like 30 or 40 other questions. But then there's the really weird, mildly concerning question of would you still play after if there were no like esports support? And my honest answer, I was thinking about this earlier. My honest answer is I would still play, but I would immediately stop spending a dime on the game. Because I mean, I play Hearthstone because I love it. Like, I wouldn't be on the podcast, like doing this every week, interacting with the community, playing on my own, if I didn't like love the game, like at a core level. And I really enjoy the gameplay. I like the flavor around it. I like the goofiness. I like the how it like stems from Warcraft. I love everything about Hearthstone. But if they cut competitive support for it, I would immediately drop like this game as my primary game, and I would probably, like Mad at Arms is saying in chat, I'd probably play Wild full time, and then just play MTG Arena all day, and then just play this like whenever I get bored of MTG Arena. But hopefully that's not what's going to happen. But I think that would be my approach. Like I would still play it because I love the game, but it would just immediately lose most of my engagement with it.
I don't know. What do you think? I assume this is you have a bit of a comment under here regarding this. What's your take on this situation?
So we pulled a comment from we looked over the Reddit thread. There were a bunch of people saying there were a ton of questions, and I wanted to make sure that I highlighted that this is Blizzard just asking what's up with Hearthstone, and they send out these surveys to a pretty regular basis. I think actually North America gets the fewest amount. This was to the European and the APAC region, and the vast majority of questions seem to be about class balance, single player content, aspects of the new cards. I don't know. It's Hearthstone is different than a lot of other esports. You can't really make money off of it except out of streaming, unless you are Hunt Race. And even then, it's probably not super profitable. It's more, you can make more than you spend, but there's a lot of travel involved. And as an esport, I don't think that the existence of a competitive scene drives the average player's engagement with the game, either in terms of time, interest, or financial investment. When you look at a game like League of Legends or Here's the Storm, those are games being driven by aspirations to compete. Hearthstone is not that. It is not about aspiration to compete. I mean, players like the one-on-one nature of it. They like getting a better rank, but trying to grind to get a better rank is competing against yourself, not against others. And I think that Hearthstone is probably one of the more capable properties of existing without a competitive scene, or at least without a really big formal one. I think it could probably be pared back a bit into, well, like what they're doing in 2019 of having a few large Pro Tour equivalents, and streamers are still the main driver of the game's engagement. Like, who's the most popular Hearthstone streamer every day?
I mean, when Crip or Toast is on them.
Yeah. It's do they like Toast is a good player, Crip is a good player. Do they play in tournaments? No, but it's 100,000 people watch Crip open packs. It's open packs. 100,000 people. I obviously care a lot about the esports aspect of the game, but if I am being honest with myself about do I ever play because there is an end game there? No, never. I know I'm not going to compete, and I knew that the second that I opened Hearthstone because I picked it because I couldn't play in PTQs anymore in the weekends. So I knew I wasn't going to compete. Do I play Eternal because I want to qualify for Eternal Worlds? No, I play it because I like the game. I play Hearthstone because I like the game. I think there are a lot of players out there that would still play Hearthstone, and I would not be surprised if the majority of the answers that Blizzard gets back indicate that the esports are not compelling or even on their radar. And I'm curious what that means, and I'm curious what this game would look like without that presence at the top, without that idea of the ability to grind into something. But Blizzard can pare it way down from where they have it and still probably scratch the itch just enough. I don't know. I feel conflicted about this because I took a pretty close look at why the In the Works page from last year, why the In the Works update hit me so hard, and it was because I had run out of things to do and was hoping for Hearthstone to give me more. But once I made peace with the fact that it wasn't going to do that, then it became a lot easier to swallow. What do you think, Botticus?
I don't know what to think, honestly. I think I kind of surmised my thoughts when I brought it up, and just that even though it doesn't have an effect on me, it still affects my perception a bit. And I don't know that that would necessarily be the case once it actually happened, if it does happen. But it's kind of at this point, it feels like it's just a wait and see what's going to be the next step. What are we dealing with this year? What is the competitive scene going to look like this year? And until we have an announcement, then we're just not going to know how exactly we're going to feel when it happens, I guess, right?
Yeah, we've got some time, and I do find it interesting that Hearthstone Worlds in Taipei this year is April 28th to 30th, and I believe that is being targeted after that set releases. That it's going to be basically a set release tournament. I think that gives an indicator that what is in store for us is going to be a little bit less highly competitively focused. It's going to be a little bit less about who is the best at this solved meta. It's going to be more about who's the best at figuring this out and making compelling viewer content. And the people
Closer
making
to a promotional tour, as the Pro Tour was sometimes called.
yeah, well, I mean, it was sometimes called that, but have you ever tried watching Spectator Magic the Gathering? Because it's a difficult experience, speaking as a person that has watched quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of it, but yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll just kind of wait and see. Um, if there's nothing else, there was one last note we wanted to make. We've already delved into a lot of this pretty in depth, but there was a post on Twitter, a twit longer, by Jules Murillo Cuellar. Cuellar? Sorry if I mispronounced that, but it's it's a pretty uh disturbing is not the right word. It's a pretty
Troubling,
saddening post,
unsettling.
troubling, unsettling post about this person's exit from Blizzard Entertainment. Uh, it looks like there are few issues that he was having to deal with in the work environment that it's just kind of unfortunate to hear. I read through the majority of this post. It's quite a long post, and it sounds like he was unfortunately suffering from some very serious anxiety conditions, and just I feel for this guy, um, and uh, I hope things are getting better for him. And I don't really know. I'm not great in these kind of situations, but I really do hope that things are starting to get better for him.
Yeah, it would be remiss for us not to bring up this post because we've talked about the environment at Blizzard, and this is an unfortunate look into the world of the office culture in this particular part, or at least one perspective of it. But honestly, we are simply not qualified to discuss the story in any depth. There's a lot of mental health conversation here. There's allegations of racism and discrimination, and and we only have one side of the story, but it was powerful enough to bring up, and it is also a triggering article if you have a history of mental health issues or a history with suicidal thoughts. So please use caution reading it. It's worth your time if you can get through it to kind of get an idea of this person's story, but we are not qualified to discuss it in any depth and analyze here, and it's not really our place. So we just wanted to share that with you and let you all know that it had been posted and that it's something that may provide insight in an kind of an unpleasant way, but you know, a way that we all need to be aware of.
Yeah. And I guess with that, we'll move into tournaments.
We could have done a better job planning that segue.
I don't know what you want. I try to do my I try to
No,
get
it's
segues when I can, and I try to make them work. And then sometimes we just go into tournaments.
so. Well, I guess we will do that. Okay, so the tournament section this week is kind of interesting because we had a tournament, but it wasn't streamed. It was the Blizzard Monthly Masters Cup, the second one, which I guess there will be 3 total, I think. I don't know. It's the it's the Masters Cup where the 15 top Masters players qualify for it and play, but it wasn't streamed by any main Blizzard channel. It was just the players could stream it on a delay if they wanted to. Total prize pool for each tournament is $5,000. The first place gets $2,000 US. And it starts at 9 a.m. Central Time, 3 a.m. Eastern. Boar Control has been the one giving the most information and streaming all of his games and tweeting about it, and he has done some casting of the semis and finals just by asking the other players. And there are only 15 players in these tournaments. This particular one, Seiko took it over Swids, with Team Genji meeting in the finals, and Yarla and Fino were in third and fourth. So, a little bit under the radar and not really being hyped by Blizzard, even though it is literally the best of the best playing it out. There is also the 2018 Gold Series Finals, which is the China HCT Winter Playoffs. That's how they qualify. And that's being held on the 7th, 8th, and 11th of January, like we talked about. The group stage and quarterfinals are not being streamed. And the last day is the semi and grand final starting at 4:30 Central Standard or China Standard Time. And the information in the live stream in Chinese is linked in our show notes on gold.blizzard.cn. You will be able to find a stream in Chinese on the 11th, but it's only going to be the top 4, so everyone you watching that stream will have qualified already. So we don't have any information right now. We don't have deck lists or anything like that. It's ongoing, and so the third and final day will be streamed in a couple days from now. So, not a ton of information available to us, but we do have the meta of the Masters Cup, and this is kind of interesting how what players are bringing now. These are decks that players are bringing specific because they can win cash if they bring the right deck, so these are very safe choices. And you'll see there are 14 hunters were brought, 5 cube hunters, 5 hybrid hunters, 3 mid-range, and 1 odd. Now, when we talk about hybrid hunter, it is a secret hunter list, but it plays minions and Master's Call, often 1 Dire Frenzy, and it tops out at Zul'jin and includes Subject 9. It was innovated by Wirer, and this has kind of become the de facto secret hunter list. Spell has kind of fallen out of contention and seems like it's more about playing minions and having secrets as well. So, 5 of those along with 5 cube, 3 mid-range, 1 odd. There were 13 paladins, 8 even, 2 odd, and 3 OTK. There were 10 rogues, 7 odd, and 3 quests. 8 warlocks, there were 5 even, and then a few one-offs, 1 zoo, 1 cube, 1 mechathune. There were 6 shamans, they were all even. 5 priest, 4 Xerxless, 1 dragon control priest, 2 Togwaggle druids, 2 odd warriors, and no mages. Like I talked about earlier, 52% of all decks are either even or odd. So, half the decks in the tournament. The winning lineup was the Hybrid Hunter list, Togwaggle Druid, Odd Warrior, and OTK Paladin. Seiko had a very interesting lineup, and Togwaggle Druid first place. And this is not the Hyper Gadgetan Auctioneer build. This is regular old Togwaggle Druid with greedy sprites in the list. Because if you're going to pay 3 mana for a mana crystal, just put a 3/1 on there. Come on. You just get a 3/1 now. It's the same price as Wild Growth, it just attacks. Why not?
Well, the greedy sprite has to die.
Yeah, so does your opponent. That's why you go face. For 3.
Well, the thing is, what are you doing on 5 anymore? You can wait a turn.
That's
Wild
an
Growth anyway.
unpleasantly
You're not
good
doing
point.
anything on 5.
Yeah. I mean, you can still you play greedy sprite on 3 and still curve and nourish. That is unpleasantly good logic, and I feel weird now. Yeah.
Sad.
But yeah, this is like this druid. It doesn't play Wild Growth, just greedy sprite. It does play 2 nourish, and then it's just regular Togwaggle druid. There's nothing really special here. It plays 2 Oaken Summons, 1 Ironwood Golem, but then you get the sprites. It does play a Harrison Jones. And otherwise, just standard issue Togwaggle Druid. The Hunter deck is straight up exactly card for card Wirer Hunter. The Odd Warrior list does have Azalina Soul Thief in it, and it has Elise, but otherwise pretty standard. And the OTK Paladin list is the Lanessa list that I think has really come into its own as the most popular. Now, what's interesting about his OTK Paladin list, it plays 4 Brewmasters. Because sometimes you call to arms out the 3/2s and whatever, it's still call to arms, and other times you just have it, and it's more Brewmasters. You can just fit more into a turn, and only plays 1 timeout. There's no High Priest to call here.
I played this list a bit. I was confused. Like, I wasn't sold on the 4 Brewmaster list a couple of weeks ago. And then I saw he won this tournament, and I tried it out. And it's actually really nice because, like you said, you called arms it out, and whatever, it's a 3/2. You still draw a card out of your deck and play it. And then the matchups where you want to try and like speed out your combo, it speeds up your combo so much faster because you don't have to wait for the 2 ancients and then the Zola, because you'll just randomly have extra Brewmasters. So it's a really cool list, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, it and clearly was good. As far as second place, Swids was playing Cube Hunter, and this was not a really exciting list. It had Charged Devilsaur, but no Undasta. His Even Warlock did have Mojo Master Zihi in it. The Xerix Priest was the 2 Grizzly build, pretty standard. And the Even Shaman was standard issue Even Shaman, nothing really all that special here. So, it looks like the meta is getting closer to solved, but it's interesting that when the first place lineup has Togwaggle Druid in it, it's definitely not what you expect to see in this post-nerf Druid world we have. So, pretty cool. I wish the tournament had more publicity, but we at least got the stats. And speaking of stats, we have the HCT EU playoff decks, and they have been parsed into very pretty data thanks to our friend Wicked Good, who loaded them into his decklist browser on offcurve.net. And there were 80 players, 76 of them brought Hunter. There were 48 secrets, 18 cubes, 6 spell, 4 midrange, 60 paladins, 25 even, 22 odd, 11 OTK, 2 egg paladin, 50 priests. Priest is the third most popular class. They must have heard us talking about it. 32 dragon control, 16 Xerix, and 2 quest. 37 warlocks, 24 even, 9 cube, 3 mechathune, 1 quest warlock. God bless you, Trek. God bless you. 36 rogues, 32 odd, and 4 quests. 23 warriors, 20 odd, 2 control, 1 quest. 15 shamans, 13 even, 2 shutterwalk. 13 druids, 7 maligos, 4 togwaggle, 2 mechathune, and 10 mages, 8 control, and 2 odd. You'll notice we didn't talk about mage at all in the Masters Cup because nobody brought it. And even after druids' iconic cards are nerfed into oblivion, none of them mattered as much as Mana Worm, who was actually propping up the mage class entirely by itself. And Botticus, I appreciate your penance of playing Elemental Mage to make up for Mana Worm's sins. I appreciate that. But mage is...
that's what it took. That's what it took. Is once they got rid of Mana Worm, then I was good to play mage. Before, when Mana Worm cost 1, I just was not a mage person.
Well,
yeah, and y'all may have heard Hat say 15 shaman, 13 even, and 2 shutterwalks. And that was not a mistake. There are 2 shutterwalk shamans in the tournament.
yeah, it's value share.
Because you can't do that anymore. But it's Prince Keleseth value dragon shaman.
Yeah, obviously. This is Ike Shaman. This is full on Ike Shaman.
Yeah, I think was it Viper and
Ike Shaman that Ike doesn't play any, or does he actually play this? I thought this was Dragon Shaman oh man.
So the interesting thing about this list, Viper posted it, and there's no crowd roasters in there. I'm like, what? Crowd roasters so sick with Shutterwalk. But it seems like their lineup might be going for a ban hunter strategy, because crowd roasters is really nice against the big hunter minions. So I think they're like trying to beat Odd Paladin with the 5 mana 3/6 and the 2 primordial
Dragon
Drakes and
Moss
stuff,
Scorcher.
maybe.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know how it's a ban hunter lineup. It's because it's January 2019, so
Yeah.
they're banning hunter. That's it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to cover the new Shutterwalk hotness that we may or may not see.
Yeah, it might end up being a little bit too hot, if you know what I mean. But I am glad that people are bringing it.
It might be as hot as Crane Holy Light Paladin.
Oh, it's Holy Wrath Paladin. Oh, wait, is he playing Holy Light?
No, remember he brought that to prelims? He brought a Holy Light Control Paladin.
Yeah. Wait. No, I don't remember that. I feel like I don't remember that.
Like 2 or 3 playoffs ago. It was a while ago.
I feel like I would have remembered that. Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah. I do remember him getting tweets from, like, he posted his lineup and then people tweeted him saying what happened. I do remember that. Yes. That I remember. So, only 43% of all decks at the playoffs are even or odd, but that's still a lot. And it's interesting. I didn't expect to see Maligos Druid at all, but people are still trying to bring Druid a little bit. Now, so we don't have any games to watch because all the games I would have to dredge out of individual streamer streams on delay for the Masters Cup. I did actually want to ask you, listeners, I was thinking about for the future of Concede, what we've done for games to watch is we've picked a game or two that we found very interesting and kind of narrated it turn by turn. And I was wondering if you'd think picking maybe 3 or 4 games and giving a shorter highlight of why that game was interesting, or would you prefer a single game explained out as we have been doing? Tweet at us, email us, talk to us in Discord. Let us know, because we're always looking to improve the format of the show. And games to watch, we could easily turn that into a highlight section and just try and touch on a few games and let you know which ones you should go back and watch, but it also requires the time for you to go back and watch them. All right, so playoffs, Europe are this weekend, Americas are the weekend after, and Asia Pacific are the weekend after that. The China players are also the top 4 is being streamed in about 2 days from today. And also coming soon is the Concede Listener League's triumphant return. The reason I'm mentioning this now is because we have votes open right now in the Listener League channel in our Discord for what format we are going to be offering. There are a few different choices. The current leader is Strike format, which is already used format of you bring 3 decks, your opponent does, and then you ban matchups. So say if I bring Hunter and you bring Shaman, and I don't want to play against your Shaman, I can ban the matchup of my Hunter versus your Shaman, and you end up playing best of 5. There's another option where we play with no Year of the Mammoth cards. There's another option where we play Pauper League, where nothing more than a common or basic card, and another option where we just play normal old Conquest. So feel free to pop in there and vote. We will be counting votes through Sunday, and I don't anticipate standard Conquest winning. So check it out. It's a high fun, low stakes environment. There are prizes, small prizes, but it's really just about if you want to play a tournament and stretch different muscles and find something new to do in the game with all your Concede friends. It's a good place to do it. Remember, it's discord.coinconcede.com. And that does it for tournament section. And Appa, did I tell you actually I got hurt a little bit today?
No.
I'm
waiting for the meme.
Where is this going?
I was on a rush home.
He stubbed his plateau. Got it.
Are you stealing my thunder?
I knew it. I knew it was going to go there.
Appa, that was totally uncalled for.
Oh my god.
Oh, God. Damn it.
So for those of you who are listening and don't understand what the hell just happened,
how does it feel to get meta dunked on? Meta dunked.
Hat was going to make a pun about the title of this Decksplanations segment because we're going to talk about how to avoid plateau as you improve. And Hat was going to say, I got hurt today. I stubbed my plateau and I beat him to it. And then he hit me with the totally and got me. But anyways, Decksplanations this week is about how to avoid plateauing when you're improving. And so getting better at Hearthstone is a goal for most of us. Not for everybody. Some people just want to engage with the game a little bit, just have some fun. But a lot of people want to improve. And improving is not a straight line, which means you don't go from being an unskilled player to a proficient one without any setbacks at all. There's going to be some setbacks in there. And improving is a constant process, and there's no one set recipe for success. There's no like one formula you follow. Because learning's different for everybody. Everybody learns in different ways. They like absorb information differently, all kinds of stuff. But part of the secret to really maximizing your learning efficiency is to set realistic goals for yourself. And these goals can be stuff like I want to hit rank 5 or hit rank 10 or hit whatever rank this month. Or it can be I want a top 16 a major tournament, or even something simple like I just want to make less mistakes in general. And it's important to set these goals for yourself so you have something to work towards. Um, and you can have really big goals in the long term. Like I'm gonna use myself for example. So my goal for 2019 is my end goal that I've kind of summarized it up as is get the golden celebration card back. And that means either win or top a major tournament. And my real big goal is to make it to Worlds. But I have a lot of stuff in the interim that I need to clean up first. So I have to set different goals for that. So tangible goals for me are like just make less mistakes in my game, uh, like hit top 100 legend, win an open cup when those come back, or like top 4 in open cup, just stuff like that I can set for myself to get to my end goal. Um, And these kind of goals help you establish an area you can cover while you're improving overall, so you can kind of set like a groundwork that you can go back and look at after you've started to improve. Um, so like for instance, if your short-term goal is to get to rank 1 legend and the highest you've ever been was rank 5, you you have to cross some bridges to get there. Like you have to break it up into smaller goals. Like I want to hit rank 4 first, then rank 3, then 2, then 1, then top 1000 legend, then top 500, et cetera, et cetera. And once you hit one of those goals that you set for yourself, the trick is to look back on your play and try and figure out what needs to be cleaned up. And this sort of goes back to the inchworm concept that we alluded to in the episode with Jared Tendler from the Mental Game of Poker. And I'll kind of explain what the inchworm concept is. So you have your C game, which is when you're playing your worst, your B game, which is pretty much average, like you're not making egregious errors, but you're not playing super well, and then your A game, which is really solid play. So whenever you improve your A game, and that moves along the graph further because you're getting better, you also need to look back at your C game and improve that at the same time, or you'll start to regress your A game because whenever you're not addressing your C game, you'll start to practice bad habits, and that'll start to influence your A game as well. So it's basically the concept is whenever you improve at your best possible play, you need to also look at your biggest weaknesses and improve them at the same time. And this can be done by self-reflection, which is the hardest method because it requires you being completely honest with yourself and kind of stepping away from emotions, which is hard for us because we're human beings. But what a lot of people do is they seek out external ways of improvement. Like, and I don't mean you're looking outside of yourself and not focusing on what you need to do. It's that you're looking to other resources, like watching streams and comparing what your plays would be to what the streamer is doing and figuring out why your plays would be different or why they're the same as the streamers and what you can improve from there. Or getting coaching. I personally don't get coaching, but um, what I do is the next point is you can send your replays to somebody to look over a game if it was close and you feel like you may have messed something up. And for those of you who don't know how to get replays, if you have Hearthstone Deck Tracker on your computer, you can click on the most recent game or the game that you want to pop up the replay for in the history tab, and it'll pull up the replay and you can get a link to share from there. Um, but a lot of it, what a lot of people do because it's the easiest for other people to notice things, is just get a second pair of eyes on what you're doing. And it doesn't even matter if the person you're sending this to is like 5 ranks below you, because all that matters is getting a different perspective to walk through different plays. Because even if somebody is objectively a worse player than you, like say somebody's just plays casual all the time and has only hit like rank 20 or something, even if you send them like a replay, there might be something very simple that they see that you're just completely glossing over. And it's just at the very least, explaining your plays to them will let you catch things that you may have done wrong or could do better. So a lot of this is just like being honest with yourself about your current skill level and where you want your goals to be in relation to that. And then working towards that and cleaning up not only your A game, but also focusing on you at your worst in game as well. And that's kind of what I had to use as a springboard for this topic. So
Yeah, I think those are all good things. I know for me specifically, the thing that I'm working on most is remembering every time I start tilting to inject logic, because that's something I have not been great at in the past. just working on my tilt, and I've always been before I read Jared Tendler's book, I was always thinking that I just need to stop tilting. I just need to not do that. And the idea that I need to at first acknowledge that it's happening before I can really kind kind of make any progress towards it, and knowing the situations in which I need to start injecting logic to make the tilt be more manageable, just needs to be more apparent. I need to be more cognizant of it, and something I've been doing a fairly good job at, but it's definitely something I want to work on a lot this year, and that's kind of my goals for Hearthstone for the immediate future, at least.
Yeah, I tilt a lot of the times will just kind of cloud whatever happened in that game under this blanket feeling of frustration. And I'll give an example. I think it was yesterday. I had a game in Wild where I set it up to where my opponent was dead next turn. I was playing against Auto Rogue, and I was at 16. So I was only dead. They had two cards in their hand. I was dead to Leroy, Cold Blood exactly. And they had two cards in their hand. I'm like, all right, you're dead next turn. And then they play the Leroy, and I'm like, are you serious? And then they go Cold Blood, 14, hit you with the dagger, you're dead. And I just looked at the screen in disbelief, and I was just like, all right, I'm done. And I got up and I walked away, went to use the bathroom, went and made some food, and just cooled down because I knew that just made me so frustrated because like, come on. But then I came back after and just started thinking about if there was anything different I could do in that game. And I don't remember what the consensus I came to was, but it was important for me to just get up and cool off first because I know the kind of person I am. If I instantly queued up another game and lost, I would have tilted into the stratosphere. So I stepped back, I took a breather, and then I came back and just injected logic into the situation. And then from there, I was able to break down the game and what happened without that feeling of being emotional and being really angry and frustrated. So it kind of let me like push this mental fog caused by this anger away just because I decided to step away and realize what was going on. So recognizing tilt is important there. Um, but the self reflection I think afterwards was really important for me because it's something I haven't been doing for a while, and I've felt my play start to regress a lot. After I was done playing in Philadelphia for the HCT tournament, I felt disappointed in my play, not because there weren't any like really glaring errors that I made, but I felt myself excuse me. I felt myself not playing to the level that I should be because earlier in the year, whenever I was doing well in tournaments, I was thinking way more in depth about way more lines and being able to process a lot more information. And there was just a lot of stuff that I felt myself needing to clean up. So after that, I'm really trying to buckle down on improving again because I've practiced bad habits for so long that they've just started to seep into my game and I've started to regress as a player. And I felt that. So the self-reflection that I'm starting to put myself through again and like seeking out other sets of eyes while I'm playing is really helpful and I'm feeling myself start to improve again. And this also came up when I was watching Risen stream yesterday is he was asking like a bunch of questions about different lines and lines of play and trying to describe or explain like why he feels like he's getting a lot out of the games, even though he's getting stomped. And I kind of we were going back and forth in chat, and we basically both came to the conclusion that whenever we get to a point where we're not asking questions is when we start to plateau. And that's kind of what jump started this idea for Decksplanations for me yesterday. Was like whenever I'm not asking questions about my play, whenever I feel like I know what I'm doing is right, that's when there's a problem. Even if what I'm doing is right, the fact that I'm not open to the possibility of what I'm doing being incorrect or something else being more optimal means that I'm not closed-minded, but it's much harder to progress from that point because I'm not like being a sponge for learning, and that's what you need to do whenever you're trying to improve is ask questions, be receptive to feedback and criticism, and be aware that even for the simplest decision, there's another decision you could have done. Like playing a one drop on turn one. Okay, that's pretty obvious if you have a one drop in your hand, but like there's also a scenario where you just don't play a one drop on turn one. Like, why wouldn't you play the one drop on turn one? I played a game as Raza Priest today where I actually held the Northshire Cleric on turn one, which seemed counterintuitive, but it actually helped me win the game because I was playing against a Warlock and it wouldn't have drawn a card if I just played it. So I saved it for a Spirit Lash turn later in the game, got a card off of it, got me deeper in my deck. So even really, really simple decisions like playing a one drop on turn one have a bunch of different uh, paths that branch off of it. So it's really important to just be receptive to the possibility of you uh, being able to do something differently. And there's a bunch of different choices that you make in each game that you play that can influence how games turn out. And sometimes you'll get non-games. Sometimes your opponent will go 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into kill command you, and you're dead. But those are few and far between, and they're few and far between enough that you can get a lot of value out of self-reflection and asking what you could have done differently in a game to sway the outcome either closer towards a victory or even harder towards defeat. So I feel like I rambled a lot.
So, here's the question. That's rhetorical. And the question is, hey, this sounds a lot like the stuff you talked about with Jared Tendler. Why shouldn't I just go listen to that episode again? And first of all, you absolutely should. Go listen to the Jared Tendler episode. It was really good. That guy's smart. But second of all, why are we talking about this right now? And I think that deserves taking a further step back. It's actually like 3 steps back, because the question that I have looking at this topic that I want the listeners to ask themselves, and that I ask myself frequently, is what do you want out of games? Right? And we kind of touched on that multiple times in how is Hearthstone without an esports scene? And are we trying to compete for a certain goal? And what games are we playing right now? And how are we engaging with Hearthstone? And what I want you, listener, to ask yourself is, what do you want out of games? Because I think the answer for Hearthstone for a long, long time was a lifestyle. Not just a game, not just something that you played, but also a community with people that you talked about when you weren't playing, and content that you can absorb when you're not playing. And if you look at when Hearthstone was at its peak of popularity that we know of, when the content was being most consumed, when there were tons of new cards coming out, there were, I think back to Ungoro, there were like 9 or 10 different podcasts that I was subscribed to. They all had card review episodes, and I tried to listen to all of them. There literally isn't enough time in the week. In between playing Hearthstone, in between watching Hearthstone, in between tweeting and Discording about Hearthstone, that's a lifestyle. That's a thing that you think about when you wake up and you think about when you go to bed, and the entire time in between is, how do I engage with this one thing? Hearthstone isn't that anymore, I don't think. Or at least if it is, a lot harder to do because there's just less to do in the game, and the climb is different. We've gone over this a few times. But you take a step back. Botticus says he's not planning on competing anytime soon, this upcoming year. At least not on a prolonged basis. I'm certainly not thinking about it. So when I look at Hearthstone now, I think, could I be a better player than I am now? Probably, if I spent a lot of time on it and a lot of energy and effort. And do I have the ability to do that and still enjoy it? Probably not right now. So, the way for me to avoid plateau is to play multiple games. Maybe try different formats. But my goal is not to compete. And if my goal was to compete, the answer there is, if I want competing that bad, time to do it. Because I would enjoy, in that particular case, the feeling of winning more than I would regret the time spent. And if I want
Well,
that feeling of winning,
I feel like your end goal there would then be just have fun, and
sure.
then if you're not, then you're plateauing, and then you fix that by self-reflecting and then
playing
going to play a
Elemental
different
Mage.
game.
Okay, well, but there is a fixed limit to how much fun you can have. That is a finite number. There is no unlimited fun, unfortunately. Maybe
I'm gonna let you know, Hat. Cutting Lyra and Lich King from your deck, infinitely less fun.
Anti-fun.
I'm
For
not trying to
sure
be infinite. I'm
anti-fun.
trying to do 80, and I can do 80, and that's enough fun in that game for me, and also for my opponent. They take 80. It is not infinite. It is decidedly finite, and then they're dead. And I like that. But that's the thing, right?
That's enough fun for 2 2/3 games.
Yeah. Or if they're an odd warrior, just enough. So, anyway, the point here is this does not have to be about a goal of a rank number in Hearthstone or a tournament finish. It does not have to specifically relate to Hearthstone. And we've talked about this a ton. And again, go listen to Jared Tendler episode. He's super smart. Definitely check that out. But plateau can also mean, how do I fix this feeling that I have when I queue up a game of Hearthstone and my opponent is a hunter and I groan and wish I was playing something else? Or I want to do better than I've been doing and get a higher rank, or I want to get into Arena and figure out how to do Arena, or I want to get better at evaluating cards when they're announced and make sure that I can pick the best card, or I want to get better at decks I haven't played before. And like we talked about at the beginning of the show, you can play aggro, mid-range, control, combo, and any combination thereof right now. If you ever want to be a better control player and all you do is play aggro, now is the time. If you ever wanted to get better at going face, first of all, always is the time. Even Priest goes face now. You just do 80, it's fine. But if you ever wanted to get better at attacking with 1-drops, because you're much better at sitting there and waiting, now is the time to learn. If you want to figure out different things to do and different ways to engage, goals can be diversified beyond just achievements in a specific way in a specific mode. And the reason why I think this topic is important right now is to draw attention to a plateau is a state of mind. And it's something that applies not just to how you play and the rank you achieve in the tournament finishes you have, but how you engage with your games. And now is a great time to examine and self-reflect, like Appa was talking about, and figure out not only what you have, but what you want. And those are very complicated questions. If you've seen Notebook, you know that what do you want is not that simple of a question. And if you haven't seen Notebook, what's wrong with you? But it's...
Is something wrong with me?
Yeah, you haven't seen the Notebook.
No, I'm just small.
But
He's young.
there, you can
Remember how old Appa is?
No, I'm aware, but video on demand has existed for a long time. It's called a movie rental. It's a
Yeah. But
Notebook
think
is
about
on
how much
VOD.
less time he's had due
So-
to the
so
shorter
you're
length
saying-
of his lifespan.
You're saying if I ask you what you want, you won't be able to tell me what you really, really want?
You're not old enough for that song.
I'm not,
there's no
but
way
I
you
know
try
it.
and make a Spice Girls reference while simultaneously claiming you haven't seen the Notebook. The Notebook is very serious. We're talking about peak Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, and there's a lot of tears involved, and I'm not going to get into it right now. Point is, reflect and figure out where that plateau is interacting with your gameplay and what it means when you decide what you want out of games. Some people want to compete, some people want a distraction, some people want to have fun, and some people want a combination of those, but not knowing what you're looking for is the fastest way to reach that kind of, at least, engagement plateau, if not skill plateau. And that's worth spending some time on.
Did we do it? Did we get under 2 hours this week?
Don't you jinx me. Don't you jinx me. We're gonna play this quickly. Well, let's see how fast I can talk. And I received commentary recently from a few folks saying that I sound funny on 2x speed. Well, Friends, get ready. Thanks to Steph and Nell for letting us use his cover. Check him out on his channel, link in our show notes. Big thanks to Wicked Good for deck analysis, Hearthstone for deck list, Liquipedia for tournament info, and Hearthstone tournaments on YouTube for tournament files. The show notes for this week's episode are on our website at CoinConcede.com. You can support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.tv/CoinConcede Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Reddit to our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Viriatus Tacos, Ryan, and Donald. So, Appa, you have a coin
You
concede?
need to do disclaimers for medical commercials. That's what your new career needs to be.
I'm pretty sure you actually went too fast for Discord to actually pick up that you were what you were saying that fast. I was getting little hiccups in the speech because it was going a little too fast.
That was me inhaling. I was breathing in. It was air.
He had to skip some syllables to make time.
It wasn't perfect, but that was for my 2x Discord bros, 2x podcast bros.
So my coin concede for this week is going to be to EK Designer, because he's been hanging out in my chat whenever I play, and he was in chat yesterday helping me out a lot with Raza Priest, because the math with that deck can get really tricky with Spawn of Shadows, and he was helping me figure out lines and stuff, and teaching me some stuff about the deck and like mindset of how to like evaluate turns and stuff like that. So he's been really helpful, so I appreciate it. How about you, Hat?
I have many. Coin concedes to Blister Guy for like the last 5 Walk to Work episodes. He's talked a lot about some personal stuff and higher level things about how do I play Hearthstone when I don't have a lot of time, like not a lot of time at all. Talking about entitlement and his own personal hangups with progressing in the game. It's been really great to listen to, very informative, and I think that past a bunch of episodes, all the way back, he's up to I think 470 now, but the past 5 or 6 I've listened to, I've really enjoyed. Same with Wicked Good. His most recent episode is Senior Void Analyst. And Wicked Good, you may not know this about him, he is a data architect by trade, and he finally had the ranting about numbers episode, and basically the entire time, one hand was on the steering wheel, the other hand was in the air saying, "Testify! Preach it, brother!"
That I'm not as well versed in data as Wicked Good is, not by a long shot. And I listened to that episode this morning, and it was very good. He broke it down in a very palatable way, and it's really interesting to listen to. So I would definitely second Hat's coin concede to Wicked Good for that episode.
Yes. Coin concede to Value Town for being a different podcast that had both Edelweiss and Cora on at the same time. So go listen to them because those are good people and they make a good podcast. Coin concede to Electric Mick, who is also known as Full Tilt HS on Instagram, who actually does a bit of the deep dives into Hearthstone art. He did Shirvala the Tiger today. Pretty cool. Coin concede to Samurai Flea for introducing me to the way of the Vivid Nightmare. He was the first one that brought it up that I remember, and that deck's super fun. Coin concede to Sijahong for correcting me in Discord. It turns out that Deathstalker Rexxar was actually the first card revealed for KFT. I said Taking Abomination. Taking Abomination was the first card after the first reveal video. So, makes the point about Deathstalker Rexxar being a marquee card that needed to be good even better. So thank you, Sijahong. And coin concede to Virtute, who over in Blister Guy's Discord said, you know, Hat, I want to hear what you have to think about Hearthstone, but you're everywhere and I'm not. Can you and all the other Hearthstone podcasters make one Discord where it's kind of a podcast network where you all get together and just talk there? And I said, and just an interesting idea, so props to him for planting that seed. Those are my 7 coin concedes we have here. How about you, Botticus?
I'm not going to coin concede to anybody. And you can't make me. But I will.
This is anarchy.
I will coin Keleseth, Shadow Step Keleseth to Blister Guy because he keeps calling me a priest main, and I don't appreciate the lies being spread.
You don't appreciate?
You beat me to it.
Hat, what have you done to me?
You're making puns. We're all playing priest. I don't know. I'm scared.
So you can find me. I'm on Twitter at BotticusHS, and believe it or not, I streamed. I did it this last weekend. But unfortunately, for most of the listeners here, it was not Hearthstone. It
Yeah.
was World of Warcraft. So if you want to see me run and probably scuffing keys, that's twitch.tv/Botticus because I expect to stream again. But don't expect Hearthstone.
I didn't know you're streaming, and I'm disappointed I missed it, even though I don't play WoW very much.
It's all right. I am not really good. So with
That's
Hearthstone
fine. I just want to
streaming,
troll you in chat.
okay, that's fine. I would appreciate that. But with WoW streaming, I'm already not super great at WoW, and also not great at streaming. And you have to focus really hard when you're playing WoW when you're doing like the important stuff. And so trying to focus on chat and also play the game and not make mistakes that you were already going to make because you're not very good at it was difficult. So something I'll work on, but probably going to be more WoW streams in the future.
All right, speaking of streams, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/OpHS. I'm streaming 5 days every week, guaranteed. Sunday, most weeks. And Wednesday, I'm taking off because we have podcasts at night. And I want to start stream at like 7 p.m. for about 3 or 4 hours every night. So that is my schedule, and that's on my Twitter. If you want to look at that to reference it, my Twitter is Appa_HS, and that's my schedule is my pinned tweet on my profile. So that's where you can find me. Where can we find you, Hat?
I don't anticipate being streaming, and you can find me on Twitter at RidiculousHat or on Discord at RidiculousHat. As a reminder, I will not be here on next week's episode. I'm sure the guys will do a great job holding it down. We're going to try and get a wild expert on. And yeah, that's it. And that's our show. So you're waiting for it, aren't you? Yes. Keep
I
calm.
didn't put this in here.
Nope. So keep calm and Shadow Vision's on 2. And if you see us in the ladder, which be careful, if you fall off, you'll stub your toe. Coin, concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.